It's because we have that ethos that we're here to lift each other up. And when I look at sort of 24-hour news feeds and I look at social media doom scrolling about what's happening in our country today, what we're missing is that ethos, that we're one phoenix and we're here to lift each other up.
Yo, I'm Bryce the Third.
And I'm Liz McKean.
And you are now tuned in to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. Here we dive into all the recovery stories from around the world.
And we talk about all pathways because there's no one right way to recover.
If you've been with us for a while, you know how powerful stories are. So get ready for your community to get just a little bigger today.
We are so glad that you're here. Let's get into the show.
Liz, what's up?
At one point, sometime I'm going to be able to sneak in there so fast. So when you say Liz, I say Bryce, but I'm never quick enough.
Nah, you're not quick on the draw.
I know. One of these days I will be. I tell you what's up. A really cool conversation that I feel like is long overdue that I'm really excited to have. How about?
I know, me too. I've been waiting to have this conversation about what tea you're drinking. What tea is that?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, that's what the people want to know. It is decaf English breakfast. Because I'm out of chamomile.
Oh, yeah, the chamomile. The chamomile. I was finna say, that's the star of the show.
I know, yeah. Should be sponsored by it.
Yeah.
Sponsored by chamomile, because we are relaxed.
Sponsored by chamomile to chill out 5 times a day.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I was waiting for you to ask me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to do this thing back and forth about the chamomile. Like, when is she going to ask me, how is my energy? How
Sorry,
am I
I'm
doing?
off my game.
Nah, I'm good. I'm feeling good. The sun is out. Back to work. Super excited about our guest today, and the energy that he's bringing, and all the newness that has taken place in his life since the last time we've had him on the show. So not only is it alumni, and it's a very special person, but I'm just excited to talk to him. So Liz, who do we have here today?
Today we have the one, the only Scott Strode, who, if you have not heard of Scott Strode, I mean, you gotta learn more and more even after this show. But he is the founder and executive director of the Phoenix, and he is the co-founder of New Form, and he is a published author. And we're going to talk about all those things today. So we're so grateful that you took the time to be here, Scott. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Feeling like I want some chamomile tea now.
I'm telling you, any chamomile tea makers out there, you want to sponsor the show? I feel like we've been pushing it all this time.
Yeah, and like I feel like decaf English breakfast is a very specific tea. So if you make that, holler at us.
Or just coffee. I'd be down for some coffee, you know. So,
just keep it regular. How's your energy, Scott?
Good. Yeah, I'm excited to connect with you, and feel like we talked a while ago, but there's been a lot happening since. So, exciting things going on.
There's so many things that can happen in life. Well, you know, I can't speak for, I'm not like the president of recovery, surprise. But I know in my personal life, especially since I've entered into recovery, a year can be very substantial, let alone 2 or 3 or 4 years. And then I feel like the way that life has been, and maybe it's just my life, but you know, sometimes like what are we in April? January was like 2 years for me. you know, and so much could happen in such a little time. And so for those of you who listened to the last time that Scott was on, there's been a lot that has transpired since we last had him on. One of the most big things that I know that you've done since you were here last was you wrote a book.
Yeah. That was like a year-long journey of it was cathartic and a little bit scary and a little bit emotional process, but yeah, it's sitting up there. Yeah. So I didn't realize I'd be carrying so many books around. Like I got them over here, and I'm going to like taking them through airports and handing them out to donors and supporters. And you have to get a little wheelie cart if you write a book and you're really out there hucking it, because you're going to be carrying a lot of books around with you.
Yeah. You never really know. First of all, just books in general. You never know how many books you have until it's time to move. And then it's like, why do I have so many dang books? But then as an author, like, I got the next room over, I got like 2 boxes full of books, and it's just like, hey, I got a lot of these paper things with my face on it, and it's insane.
Yeah. It's just very visible. Like Scott, you've always been a very visible person. I mean, I guess always since, Phoenix. But I also feel like you've never been a person who is like desperate for the spotlight. Like, I feel like you often are spotlighting other people. So, I mean, we have a million questions about the book, which I feel like is why we're slow to start, because there's just too many already at the surface. But I guess that's my first question: is how does that feel? Because you are in the spotlight. Like, this is a lot of Scott. Does that feel exciting? I mean, I would imagine that's probably some of the scary, but what are those?
Yeah, I mean, as you all know, and from the previous episode on here, always been super open about my recovery journey and my own story, and I'm willing to go as deep into it as people want to go. And if it can be helpful to others to find their journey of healing. And it's one thing to share it in the context of like growing the Phoenix as an organization and a movement. And then it's, this is a whole new level just to have it sitting out there on Amazon and on a bookshelf somewhere, for anybody that wants to, pull it down and read it. So I think, through the journey of writing it, I had to ask myself a lot of questions about like the vulnerability that I wanted to show in the book. And I just thought it was important to put it all out there and to kind of bring people into my life as a kid, and what I think was really the foundation of my own addiction story, and sort of a lot of the building of the Phoenix movement too, because I think we got to sort of disrupt the way we're approaching some things in our country through that lens of like a principled approach. So, I wanted to get some of those messages out there in the stories in those pages. So
when I create things, especially nowadays, there's a bit of a meditation or a contemplation on the front end as to, because especially when we're busy and we're contributing to so many different things, it's like, okay, why do I allocate the time and the resources to bring this thing that I'm contemplating bringing to life? And I'm super curious as to like what is the thing that's like, hey, I gotta do this. I gotta bring this to life. I gotta create this. What was that thought process like, and why did you feel that this was a thing that must come to life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question, and I think I would say that there's sort of two reasons why. One is I think that as we built Phoenix over the years, and now we've been at this for almost 2 decades, of empowering folks that have been impacted by substance use to help empower others who've been impacted by substance use. I started to realize that what makes this Phoenix movement special, the sort of ethos that sits underneath it, and the intention that we bring, and sort of showing up for others as somebody showed up for us. And, we talk about coming to a Phoenix event, the heaviest weight in the gym is the front door, and how we're keeping an eye on that front door. When people come in, we want to scoop them up with love, and how this is different, than the sort of institutional approach to addressing addiction, which is more about like top-down control. Let's incarcerate our way out of this, or let's find another drug to get people off the drug and get them on more drugs to keep them off drugs, and that kind of approach, which is obviously a stepping stone for some folks in their recovery journey. But I think that Phoenix uniquely focuses on the strength in people, and treating people with dignity, and believing in everyone that comes through the door, no matter what state they're in when they come through the door, that they too can thrive, and that they can also help others thrive by sharing their unique gifts. And I started to realize, as you build a nonprofit, that if you change out a couple members of the board of directors, you change out a couple staff members, across an organization, you hit like a weird cultural moment, say in our country, and you can dismantle what was special about an organization pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to keep those ideas enduring is to write them down and to have them memorialized in that way and out there in the world. And so I thought it was important that we get the Phoenix movement down on paper so that people will have it. So even if Phoenix isn't the one that changes the way our country approaches addiction, the people that come behind us maybe can be informed by what we were able to do and carried even further down the field. And that's sort of one key reason. And the other, to me, I think is actually even more culturally relevant, which is, you know, I'm sitting up here in my office in our Boston location, and like out this window here to the side is our gym, and it's always full of people down there. Right now there's firefighters down there, fire cadets that train here and then try to get on the fire department here in Boston. And we're doing stigma reduction, right? They're seeing people in recovery that are opening the front door whose lives might have been saved by Narcan, and they're changing the empathy they carry with them out on the street. You know, this is a special place, what happens here. But what I see here often, and I talk about in the book, is I see people coming from pretty tough backgrounds and coming together to lift each other up. They might have, you know, we see a handful of, you know, broken noses down there that people earn the hard way. And we see people down there with ankle monitors, and people coming from halfway houses, and people come from the nicest neighborhoods, but addiction still stripped away their dreams. And they're down here, and everyone's fist bumping and high fiving and lifting each other up. And it's because we have that ethos that we're here to lift each other up. And when I look at sort of 24-hour news feeds and I look at social media doom scrolling about what's happening in our country today, what we're missing is that ethos, that we're one Phoenix and we're here to lift each other up. We're one country and we're here to lift each other up. And if we could bring those same principles to bear against the issues we're facing today of dignity and empowerment and believing in people, we'd be in a very different place as a country. And I talk about that in the book, and I wanted to get it out because I feel like there's others that could learn from us, people they see as on the fringe of society and the problem in our society, that we've actually found a solution that they could benefit from too.
Yeah. Yeah, for those who don't, for those who have like no idea and maybe had just found this podcast, just scrolling around and looking for a recovery podcast, what is the name of the book?
It's Rise, Recover, Thrive, which obviously Rise, Recover, Live, something you know well, which is the sort of saying for the Phoenix, and this idea that we are all rising from something.
Yeah.
And that we can recover together and help each other dream about how we can live, what our life could be. But I wanted to bring in thriving into that because I just think that we sometimes, the lessons of the world teach us what we should set our expectations at, what's possible for us.
Yeah.
And those hard lessons can have us thinking that we're only worthy of so much or deserving of so much. And I wanted to kind of pull that limiter off and let people think about how they can thrive in life.
Well, and that's super interesting because to talk about thriving a little bit, I had been introduced to like self-actualization and at first I thought it was just like all-encompassing self-actualization. Like, hey, you figure out, you know, what your contributions are, figure out what your passions are, and like mix it with your aptitudes, and then you get, you know, your self-actualization. But as I began to teach it, what I quickly discovered, not quickly, but it took some time to discover from the feedback I was getting, it's like, oh, this is like professional self-actualization. There's a self-actualization that precedes that self-actualization, which is like literally, do I have somewhere to sleep tonight? Like, am I supported? Do I have people that love me? Do I have trust? Am I in fight or flight continuously? And so what I've learned is that in order to get to the door and even twist the knob of wanting to thrive, I have to be able to take the steps to being okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what are what do you think, like, how do we democratize or give access to okay?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, you know, I actually thought about that when we were thinking about the word thrive, you know, in the title, because thriving can feel like a place pretty far away, I think, for a lot of people. And I think even if we said, you know, rise, recover, live your best life, you know, it still could be pretty far away. Plus, it'd be a really long title. But I think that the I think sometimes we set our vision of what thriving is or where we should be someplace that is so too far away or isn't even set in the right spot. You know, like
I
I
hear what you're
think
saying.
when you're looking at your social media feed, you could kind of think of like, this is what thriving looks like. This is what I have to be doing if I'm thriving. But we talked about the heaviest weight in the gym being the front door. Living your best life could be finding the courage to open that door for the first time and come into Phoenix. Even if you're only 48 hours sober and chance you might pick up and drink again tomorrow, but you can get 48 hours sober again and come back to Phoenix. Like, that's a step towards living your best life. And there's even this other piece of self-actualization. Even if you're trying to figure out, you know, how to clean up that stuff from your addiction story to, like, you know, kind of put your life in order and get on this path of healing and recovery, you could stop for a second and keep that door open for the person behind you. And you've just self-actualized, right? Because you found the courage to pull that door open, and then you were grounded enough to stay there for another second and let somebody in behind you, knowing that took some courage for you to do.
Yeah.
So it's self-actualization doesn't have to be like sitting on a yoga mat, meditating about who we can be and being centered and, you know, all this stuff. It's really about, like you said, it's like finding that gift that you can share with others also helps lift you.
Yeah, I know Liz is like, if we were in the room together, like Liz would be smacking my knee like, hey man, let me get some. But I got another question. Because that leaving the door open for the person behind you, and when I asked about like the meditation on the front end of creating this book, you dove into the kind of like the philosophical notion as well as like the applicable way that the Phoenix has sought to solve this problem, right? And there's a bit of like your own personal story in there too, right? And so within that too, like, what has been your experience of leaving the door open? Because I know I've heard, even before I knew what the Phoenix was, like I had heard about how Scott's story had influenced people to take the first step for themselves. And so what has been that process for you leaving the door open and how you self-actualized in that way, and now taking this new step of like creating a book and leaving the door open in a new way?
Yeah, well, I don't know. There's a lot there, you know, because I think it's interesting what the incentive that drove me to the work originally wasn't probably the best incentive for me, right? But I was in this place of like, and I shared this, I think the first time we talked, like, if I could help try to rescue other people, somehow I felt like I had a life of purpose, or I was deserving of like love, you know? If I could help enough people, maybe they would love me. And if they love me, maybe I could love myself, because I didn't at the time, you know? So it was sort of which if that's what got me there, then that's fine. If that's what gets you there, then that's okay too. But just know on the foundational level, you're worthy and deserving of love, you know, no matter who you are or what you've been through or what the world has taught you. And it's like, I had to get over that hurdle before I could really be of service to others. Because if not, I found myself just jumping in the well to try to save people when that ultimately wouldn't save me either. Right. So, but as I think the thing about self-actualization is that as you develop unique gifts and your passions, you can reach further with it. Right.
Mm.
So like I got into recovery. I found these activities. They changed my life. I wanted to share them with other people. I started sharing them with other people, and I realized we brought all these incredible people around the Phoenix who could help that reach further. So then our capabilities grew, and our passions and our unique gifts grew, and it just kept compounding. And that's why I think that there's like really no stopping it. Even though there's a lot of negativity we're seeing, out there in the world right now, I say like, don't believe the hype, because the good stuff that's coming is even more powerful, right? When we lift each other up, when we reach out a hand to each other, when we take a minute and we hold that door open for the person behind us who's coming through, headed towards hope, like, there's no stopping that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Liz.
All right.
Go ahead,
Tag
Liz.
me in. Well, I think, the thing that jumped out at me when you were talking first about just the Phoenix and, getting it down on paper so people could see that everything that's happening on the news, and some of the really hard things that just feel so heavy in our entire society. Like the way to shift that is by taking this, I don't know, perspective that's not actually the case, and there is a way to shift that back into a more human space. And I think that's the thing that I see you do again and again, and the thing that I see the Phoenix do is it's not just a philosophy, and it's not just an ethos. That's certainly a huge like part of all of it, but it's like it's this just the uniqueness of every individual person, and lifting up. I mean, it's what we do here on this podcast, lift up individual stories, but not in a jump in the well way, not in a, this is about me and I'm the one who can save everybody and I know the right way for you, so I'm going to do it for you or tell you how to do it, step by step. It's here's my story. So maybe there's something that resonates and you can see that you're not alone. And also here's a maybe foundation of a way that your story can just that thrive can mean whatever it needs to mean for you. And even that's on a spectrum, right? It's like that thrive. I mean, gosh, I remember early sobriety, the day that I like realized I'd gotten, X amount of time that I didn't actually want to grab a drink. It was that moment. I mean, I was thriving in that moment. My life was in shambles and I was thriving. And then, take that a little bit down the line, and then you're starting to reach back and help other people in a way that is, again, like not about me, but it's just, it fills us all up. And I don't know, I feel like when I look at your book and the fact that you did, it's your story. There's like details of like your like intimate details of your story and how the hard stuff happened and then how the good stuff happened and then, into the Phoenix. And you're able to do that in a way that, again, like it's inspiring, but it's not, but like I could read it and not feel like I have to do it exactly how you did it. So can you talk about that a little bit? Like just that general, like every individual gets to be part of this and impact it. And like our all pathways philosophy. I just feel like that's what makes so much about this and about you and your message incredibly special.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all that. I mean, I think sorry. I think that one thing I thought a lot about in the book is even my childhood stuff. I had a father with untreated mental illness and a stepfather with untreated alcoholism, and just saying that out loud, like to the world, it's like there was some struggle around that, because I feel like a lot of those sort of family secrets we keep tucked away somewhere, and I'm not blaming those guys. Like they too had their own journey and they had their own why behind why their life was so tough. And, I think it's just like that stuff sort of cascades down over the generations. And at some point somebody's got to be willing to feel it and like try to move through that stuff. But even though my story wasn't as extreme compared to some folks, I wanted to tell it that way so that it still impacted me in this really painful and profound way. And I think by sharing it in that way, it allows people to feel their own stories a little bit. You can say, maybe there's a little nugget in there about how my dad was with me that helps somebody think about how their mom or dad was with them, or the fact that I talk about my dad was left by his father when he was 6 months old, so it's like that pain, passed down to us. And so it's like, I wanted to give people sort of permission to feel, because we tend to do this trauma denial. Like, you had it worse than me, so I'm good. We should just bootstrap up. But it's like, Martin Luther King said, that's cruel to say to a bootless man, so it's like trying to think about just giving people permission to feel, and then also think about how we can grow past that, because we all have this intrinsic strength.
Yeah. I got a question.
Yeah.
How easy is it for you to be seen, to allow for yourself to be seen?
You mean of just putting myself out there and being this open and
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So yeah, answer that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's the question. Then I guess
there's a part two.
Yeah, I think there's a part two. When Phoenix first started, I actually didn't share my story much at all. I just thought the idea had so many legs that we didn't even need that, right? Like, people would just catch on to what it's about. But I realized, like, we talk a lot about, sharing from the head, heart, and core at Phoenix, because some people like the stats. So you got to share from the head side, and the heart people, are moved by that. And the core is the I believe statements, which it's those things we can rally around. But unless we had examples of those things, we weren't sort of inspiring people alongside this. So I just started sharing as the first Phoenix member to start sharing their story. And now we have, close to 800,000 people who are sharing their story. So it's gained its own momentum. But that was tough for me in the beginning.
Yeah. And now?
And now, it's like, it's funny because, like, and I'm not even really like a well-known person, right? Like, in certain circles, maybe.
But agree to disagree, but all right.
Yeah. But I think that you do start getting protective of what you instinctively want to share, because especially now, having kids and becoming a parent, and I try to be sensitive, because I know being a parent's hard and raising kids is tough. And when you have opportunities, it's easier. And there's a lot of people that have very few opportunities, but are still in that fight every day, trying to be a good parent. And, you're talking about early childhood stuff in my book, and I'm not passing judgment on anybody. It's just, we have to be real about, like, what we're going through if we're going to be able to move through it, I think. So it's something I think about a lot. I try to continue just to be who I am and show who I am. And in some ways it's kind of mutually reinforcing, because then you get to a fork in the road and you're like, well, I know which way our guiding principles would take me on this, and that's the way I got to go. Maybe not the way you want to go, but you got to go that way. Like, sometimes I see stuff in the news cycle, nowadays, where I want to post a bunch of stuff about what I think about it. That's pretty overt, but then I go back to, what's really powerful is to model these principles and how we would move through this, through that lens of this ethos of lifting each other up. That's powerful. So that was a bit of a ramble, but
no, that's, I think we're getting to something. I don't know what I'm aiming for, but from what you shared, like having a container for how it is. 'Cause for me, like, 12-step changed my life, and because it gave me like a container, but also opened the world up. It allowed for me to be faced with things in life and then have like a tool belt of like morality and discernment that gave me enough leeway to have me within it, but also like in those really tough, like dang, like this, it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray here. It gives me the ability to weave through the experience that I'm having right now with like wisdom, compassion, and understanding. And what it sounds like to me is that there's there's an experience that you're having as a public figure. Because I mean, yeah, you're not Usher, but like a lot of people know who Scott Strode is, man. You know what I'm saying? And so that like when you say something, it can shake something more than if my nephew say something right now. You know, that might not always be the case because my nephew might, you know, my nephew might boss his life up. You
Be
know
the
what I'm saying?
next
But
Usher. You never know.
yeah, you know, but right now, if you say something, it can shake something. And so there's and I can also tell that like you're calculated, but not in a way how I've seen some people be calculated because this is my public persona and this is how but I think what you believe in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've been able to sense that you believe in is like the fairness, the welcoming of all, the ability to hold space for all experiences. You'll calculate what to share because of the power of your voice. You don't want to stomp on somebody else's experience, because everybody's experience is important, especially through the ethos that you've used as the container to guide the way that you move. And like I want to know what T Scott drink. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to know like who is Scott as a human. You know, we talked about this a little bit too before the meeting we had before this, where it's like I've had that experience of, you know, when I was a kid, my mom would say, "There's starving kids that don't have food." While I was full, and it's like, okay, but how is me stuffing myself with this food gonna stop the kids from starving? Like both things can happen at once, you know. And so that's why I asked, like, what is your experience with like being seen and allowing for yourself to be seen? Because like literally, Scott, like, do you go to the playground? Like, what do you like? How do you like? What does a day in Scott's life looks like? You know, and I'm sure there's people that when they hear like who Scott is, like it's like, oh, like I was already inspired, but now it's like, hey, man, like he's a person that deals with these things and feels these ways and goes to the park and drinks chamomile tea just like me, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's interesting to think of that. You know, I think the through that lens, because I mean, yeah, I'm at the playground all the time, by the way, even in the winter. And, you know, I was like, our kids love we live in the city. So, you know, we get outside as much as we can, considering the playground, you know, sometimes a little smaller than you wish it was for the kids. But, you know, it's funny in that world. I think sometimes people just see me with a sober shirt and they don't quite get, you know, who this guy is or what I do in my day job, you know, and I was wearing actually this shirt, the New Form shirt, right? And you all obviously know what New Form is, but I was telling somebody at the playground, this other dad, I was like, oh yeah, this is a tech platform that the Phoenix just launched, and we're trying to kind of create a marketplace of healing for mental health and addiction. We bring together all these top organizations, and people can find what they need when they need it. And we can't solve all these issues alone, but by coming together, maybe we can. And I'm sure he was like, yeah, man, are you guys done with the swing yet? He's like, my daughter's waiting to get on that. But then one of the other dads came over. He's like, yo, man, I saw that Wall Street Journal piece on you. That was really good, you know? And all of a sudden the other dad's like, wait, maybe this dude's actually doing that, you know? Like, but it kind of hit me that like, you need this like external, you need the Kelly Clarkson show or something to like validate that what you're doing is special. When for 2 decades we knew it was special, right? Because of all the people we've seen have their lives changed, and all those people that then became changers of other people's lives. So, you know, anyway, it's a little off topic, but I guess on topic is we shouldn't underestimate each other, right? Even if you're just the other dad on the playground, like that's the way I look at it. Like everybody who steps into the Phoenix, like if we think we've all come together and done something with Phoenix and New Form, wait till you see somebody else who comes through the door because of what we did
Mm.
and they go do. That's the thing, is like, we just try to plow the road so the people that come behind us can get even further.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah,
And I
I feel
drink
like
coffee more than tea, by the way. So
coffee more
if
than
you
tea.
to answer that question, I do love making coffee. So it's it just gave me, like, when I got sober and didn't have all those like processes that I used to do back in the day. Now I just focus it on like my pour over and my grinding my coffee just right. And it's
I
like,
totally feel that way about tea.
Yeah.
Like, it's the ritual of it. It really is.
Yeah.
It's like there's something that this means, and that's like it's soothing even just in the ritual. Yeah, which is nice to replace the rituals that were, I don't know, maybe at one point meant to be soothing, but
Yeah, I had a problem with balance at first. When I first discovered coffee and sobriety, I bought a coffee pot for the first time. I'm like, you're supposed to drink it all, right? And like, I drank the whole pot that night. I'm like, you're not supposed to drink it all.
Yeah.
like, am I supposed to be vibrating off of my chair? Like, is that?
Do y'all feel the house moving?
Exactly.
Oh, no.
I've been there.
Well, I mean, I think that's a beautiful segue too into the club that I fell out of. If you're watching this on YouTube, I don't have my new form gear on today. I'm apparently just repping Detroit. That's just what I'm doing today.
Right.
But
Detroit's
new
cool.
form is as the digital community manager, I've learned that not only is it a tool, but it's a philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a philosophy of the democratization of resources, the free resources for the people who need them, accessibility, de-siloing, and the different organizations that are contributing to different communities because they're from those communities or speak the language of those communities, having the empowerment to connect together and get their resources out there. And it's a beautiful philosophy. And what I've learned, that in it being a philosophy, it takes for somebody to really be bought in, to really be contributing to the platform, because we're dang near programmed that there's not enough. If you have that, if you got that grant, or if you're serving those people, then I'm in competition with you. But in all actuality, we started this thing to get the resources to the people who need them. So what was the motivation behind New Form, and where do you see New Form going? And I mean, Liz, you could chime in. What has been?
Well, those were like 3 questions to start, so I think that's a great place to start.
I mean, okay, so all right. Sometimes I do that. I ask like 4 questions in one question. Okay, what was the motivation for the evolution of New Form from the work that started with the Phoenix?
Yeah, I think for me, it was, we talked about Phoenix being around for almost 2 decades. Like, I've spent a lot of hours trying to help people navigate one of the most difficult things in their life, their addiction, their struggle of their loved one who's in a really dark place around mental health or addiction, trying to navigate this really fragmented and like you said, siloed landscape of resources that are out there, and many of which aren't even really that good. Mm-hmm. And trying to figure out if their insurance will pay for this, or if they've been through 6 treatments, does their insurance pay for anything? And how come they've been through 6 programs? And why did they get kicked out of that halfway house just for smoking cigarettes? But, now they're back out on the street using, and, there's all the complexities of it. Mm-hmm. And I just kept seeing the Phoenix calendar in my own Phoenix app, like putting Phoenix in front of me when I needed it, right? Like, I go every morning I can to the 7:30 workout here in Boston. And I just kept thinking, like, we got to have more things in that calendar so that when people need it, it's there for them. And let's pick the partners we trust and believe in to come alongside us. And if they're if they're in it for the same reason we are, for this principled approach, because they believe in the strength in people and the dignity of people, then let's lean into this work together. Because where we can hold somebody up, we might be able to help them, and where they can hold somebody up, they might be able to help a Phoenix person. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, we're all just the same people on there. It doesn't matter if you're from Phoenix or from She Recovers or from Ben's Friends or some of the other organizations in there. You're just trying to live that best life or thrive or move towards it, even if it just means staying sober today. So this idea of a marketplace just started to be built, and the idea that Jackie Helios, who's one of the co-founders of Phoenix, and I don't know, is Jackie been on here?
I
think
think
she's
so.
Jackie has not been
yeah.
on the show.
You'll
No,
have
I
to
feel
get
like
her on here
busy people are hard to get
yeah,
on the pod.
but Jackie, just kind of brought up this idea that like all the digital tools that are used in social media and algorithms and platforms and even Google Chrome that we're streaming on now, is all those tools could be used to make people's lives better if we aim them at that work, as opposed to just thinking of people as their data to serve a company. What if their data could serve their life being better by putting in front of them what they need when they need it to move towards thriving? And that's why the new form, this idea of like every click and swipe is moving you closer to living your best life. And if we can put the resources in front of people to help them do that, this will be a marketplace unlike any other thing that's ever been built. And all the tools exist in the world now to build it. It's just the incentive dimension isn't there for people to go do it. If it's about the bottom line and the dollar, where at Phoenix it isn't. For us, our value creation is the change life. And that allows us to make new forms value creation, the change life. And by keeping it that pure and simple, you will actually change lives. If we fold in that other incentive dimension about making a buck for somebody, then we'll get lost.
And people stop being people. They just start being numbers on a spreadsheet. Yeah. The thing that you said on our last recording of this podcast, and I've heard you say it other places too, and I've repeated it probably on more episodes than not, is that, and I think anytime we've ever spoken at a conference, we've been like, and as Scott Strode says, this is always the way I always quote you on this, Scott, is that, that society looks at us as the problem, but really we're the solution. Like, and we look at each other as the solution. And I think that's such a difference too on this platform when we look at the individuals being that are, downloading the app and finding what they need. Like you said, it's not about, grabbing and making sure we got more people in this organization or using this, or that we can count towards this type of, check mark in the box. It's about not only making sure that there's something on there for everyone, which we say this all the time. It doesn't mean it's everything for everyone. Like that doesn't mean you're going to go on there and you're going to agree or love every single thing. But there's going to be something on there that speaks to you. And that is like such a vote of trust in people who often have choices and trust taken from them. Who, I know that, I didn't even trust me, like when I was first starting to get sober. And that is something that's taken so long, and something that has built back up my own trust in myself and my ability to regain trust, in other areas of my life, is to just have choices and have somebody be like, these are the things that could maybe help. Like you get to decide what's best for you. Like in Phoenix alone, it's like there's some CrossFit, there's some yoga, we go for a hike, maybe we'll listen to some music. Like, what do you like? And for someone who for years thought it was just like, do it this way or else you're wrong and bad, and having that not work and feeling like that was such a flaw in me, to be able to choose something that felt right and then to have it be celebrated because I was taking a step forward and not be alone in that was just so powerful. So to now have this whole platform where there's just hundreds of thousands of people and thousands of resources that we're saying, hey, we'd love it if you came over here and did Phoenix stuff. We'd love it if you go to a recovery Dharma meeting. And also, we just love it that you're here. Whatever works for you, do it. Like, what a beautiful way to put choice in people's hands and to help them learn to trust themselves again, because it's not an algorithm meant to control someone's use and to keep them there. It is a tool that's meant to help you figure out what is right for you in this season of your life. And that's like, that doesn't exist in very many places. So yeah, I guess I didn't have a question. I just had a soapbox I needed to step up on.
Yeah, but I think Bryce, that I agree with all that. And I think you kind of kicked us off, Bryce, with this idea that, people in the nonprofit space, we feel like there's limited resources. We need to fight for it. I actually think the real abundance comes when we go put our shoulders together and work
so true.
at this vision together. because, it's sort of like Kelly Clarkson, talking about my book and having me on there. And now people think we've sort of done something great. When we did something great the day before we were on that show, just no one knew of it yet. The world will know of New Form and what it is and what we're doing as partner nonprofits on there, what we're doing as a community on there, lifting each other up. And when they find out about it, it's going to catch fire in a whole different way. And the opportunities will be abundant for everyone, for the people that are on the platform, changing their life, and the partners that are on there trying to help people do that in an authentic way. And, we have something special now together, all the folks on New Form. It's just the world doesn't know it yet. And so we keep getting it out there, keep telling people about it and sharing it with folks and bringing folks on the platform and seeing where there can be help. And if there isn't the help that people need, then you can become it.
Yeah.
Right. I love the idea that, some folks could meet on New Form and find a little niche area where they could come together and create value in other people's lives. And they could start a group on there. They could become a partner on there, from being members to being a partner. And all of a sudden, women are coming together to help each other with postpartum depression or whatever it is. And all of a sudden there's this whole new channel in New Form that can help folks. And that's why when you on the New Form team say, a community of communities, that always really speaks to me, when that's how I envision it too.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing, and maybe may or may not be a bar or a metaphor that, like, when you think about the opposite of siloing, and you come together and we move and serve in the spirit of mutual benefit. Oftentimes, your form and my form, we come together and create something new. It's like, seeds are cool on their own. I could eat sunflower seeds by themselves, and there's pumpkin seed. I can go down the list of good seeds, and then water is like what brings life. But then you put the two together and you create, a tree or an actual sunflower or something that bears fruit that couldn't have existed without the two elements coming together. And so, I've seen it so many times, like, and it's. I think maybe I had to see it to believe it. But once I saw it, like, it really changed my mind around, like, scarcity. It's like, oh wait, there's not only abundance, but there's things that literally don't exist if we don't come together and create them together. And so it's been super dope to see. And real quick, how do people, before we get out of here, how do people access this resource? What does it look like? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Phoenix, you just go to thephoenix.org and find Phoenix near you and download the app, which the app is now New Form. So check out newform.org if you want to learn more about that, or look for New Form in the App Store. And then, you can find my book anywhere books are sold. It actually is a big day to be able to say that. Like, in the early days, I was like, you could get one I could send you one, but now it's like out there in the world. So
the real deal.
And then if you go to scottstrode.com, there's more stuff on the book to follow, sort of, book discussions and stuff that I'll be doing here in the future. But I just encourage, whether you're somebody who could benefit from utilizing New Form or the Phoenix, to jump in. But if you're a nonprofit leader and you want to get into this good fight with us and help us build this thing, then actually talk to Liz and Bryce, track out. You guys down.
We have a phone number now in our app descriptions that you can reach out to us. And so you can do it that way. You can send an email. Yeah, definitely.
That would be great, and get more partners on there, because you never know what resource you bring that somebody might need. And that might be the key unlock to help them get to the next evolution of their healing journey. So we need everybody on New Form, and we can't do it alone, but we can do it together. And that's always been the case at Phoenix. And I think it's the case at New Form too. And I think it's the case for our country right now too. So.
Yeah. Beautiful way to cap the show out. If you have listened this far, you're definitely our people. And we hope to see you tap into these resources. Hope to see you, hear from you. We hope to hear your stories and learn more about you, and continue to be able to plant the seeds for you to be able to develop and grow, evolve, be okay. Scott, before we get out of here, there's somebody listening that needs a word of encouragement, that needs to know that it's okay for them, and that there's hope. What do you tell them?
I just always go with Tiffany Foster's, which is where there's breath, there's still hope.
Mm.
So I believe in you, and I know you can do it. And even if this is your 10th or 12th or 20th time trying, that we're here for you. And if you reach out a hand, we'll reach back and grab it.
You better believe it. All right. Well, we love you. Thank you for listening. Thanks, Scott, for coming on.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Liz, for being you and drinking weird tea. And we will catch you next time on the next episode of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast.
Bye, everybody.